And I see, yeah, I see some wonderful people. So hello, everyone. Thank you all
Hey,
for
Andreas.
attending.
Oh,
And ma'am, do enjoy your wedding. Stay as long as you can, please. And when you have to go, we understand that you have to slip away. And hopefully I'll be able to do whatever I need to do
Mm,
as the host. So thank you very much.
I'm taking a
Well,
picture of you, Memdu.
hello there. Hello. And I know there are more people joining. So um, welcome, everyone. May I present to you Dr. Eglee Gimon. She is one of my students, one of my magnificent students, who has done a project on Viktor Frankl's play. I will let her introduce herself some more and the title of her presentation. And we shall take it from there. Welcome, Eglee. I'm so proud to see you here
Thank you.
and
Thank you so
can't wait
much.
for your presentation.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. I'll start to share right now. Just, I would like to see whether everyone can see this. Just, can you all see it?
Yes, we
Yes.
Yeah.
can.
Okay.
I can, yes. So
Okay. I'm just gonna see if I can start the present. Okay. Um, so welcome to this LogoChat. Thank you so much for joining this session. And again, I'm very honored to be here. And my name is Eglee Gimon. I actually, as you can see on my Zoom ID, I have put in the spelling of my name, as I know it's hard to pronounce and people are usually confused about my name. It's a long story, it's a Greek name. It's pronounced Eglee. And I'm a palliative physician in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. And most importantly, I'm a logotherapy student under Dr. Doreen Francis. And I'm currently on my Meaning Center Interventions course. And as part of the course, we need to essentially reflect on synchronization in Buchenwald. And these are my humble reflections. I'm only a physician. Actually have been introduced to Viktor Frankl throughout my life, but most significantly in the last couple of years under Dr. Franz's guidance. And um, I like and enjoy reading about philosophy, psychology. I integrate a lot of that in my practice. And of course, actually, I'm very drawn to logotherapy because of that, and because with my patients, I faced essentially accompany my patients in difficult aspects of their lives, and I sort of keep in mind that I'm not a scholar in philosophy uh, or psychology, but I actually have a deep interest in those areas as well. And of course, and I am aware that I'm talking to experts here, so please, if I do say something that is not correct, please correct me. I'd like to start with acknowledging Dr. Francis for her guidance and encouragement, and also Mendu for organizing this event, and overall to the Viktor Frankl Institute for existing and for also making these educational sessions available. I'd like to start, actually, I structured this presentation first talking a little bit about the title of the play, then going through the plot a little bit. I actually ventured myself into providing some illustrations of my own that I created with my son. And also, as we talk about the plot, just to refresh everyone's memories on the plot, I will be sort of introducing some slides that sort of highlight a few aspects of the plot. And then at the end, I will be talking about my reflections and actually, as I prepared the presentation, I went even deeper into the structure of it, why it is so captivating, and then finally my own reflections on the play, and I I will then open for any other of your reflections or comments or corrections. Of course, you can also correct me throughout if there's something that is not correct. So when I read the title Synchronization in Buchenwald, the first thing that happened to me is that I was not familiar with Buchenwald. So I actually had to essentially look at what was Buchenwald, and please be patient with my pronunciation of German because I do not speak German, and I find that it's one of the most difficult languages to pronounce. I only speak English. I do have an accent in Spanish and Italian, so please, if you feel that I said something and it was not clear, just please ask me to repeat. So Buchenwald was the largest concentration camp in Germany. I was familiar with Birkenau and Auschwitz, but not with Buchenwald. So this is a picture of the camp as it is right now. I took it for one to illustrate my presentation. And I also wanted to know where it was located, and it's located close to a city called Weimar, which is about, I think, 5 or 7 hours from Amsterdam. Amsterdam should be on this east side of Buchenwald. And the camp, of course, as any of the other camps, was notorious for brutal living conditions and terrible treatment of prisoners. And of course, I had played a significant history in the atrocities of the Holocaust. Then, and this is just me, I'm very interested on the etymology of the words, and we'll go into that, but also I was interested in knowing when did Dr. Frankl essentially publish this and where. So I was able to, with my Google search skills, find a few things. He titled this play as Synchronization in Buchenwald. Of course, I cannot pronounce all this in German, but it translates to a metaphysical conference. So the place Buchenwald was an imaginary place, and likely a hybrid in between the names of Birkenau and Buchenwald. It was written in 1946, right after he left the concentration camp, and after 1945, the liberation of the camps. And it was published under a pseudonym, Gabriel Lyon, and we can see here the first page published in 1948 in this journal. It's a literary journal in Austria called Der Brenner. Then I was further intrigued. Has this ever been played? Because essentially this document is a script, a play for theater. So I thought maybe somebody has played it before and I have not seen it. So I couldn't find a movie about it, which I wanted, but and I think it was good that I didn't find it. But I see that it had been played in Austria, and most recently in 2021. This is that I could find. It may have been played other times, but this is what I could find online. It's a theater group in Austria that had played it in 2021. We can see the Dark Angel, and we'll talk about the characters in a few minutes. But essentially, it has been a theatrical play, and that's the scene. And this is the location where I found it online. As I mentioned before, I'm interested in the etymology of words, and then I was intrigued about, because there were talks about that Birkenau is essentially is a forest of beech forest, Berg, meaning Berg, I think, forest. Sorry, I'm confused here. And Buchenwald means beech, and this is the tree. I have a picture of it. So the title changed then to Synchronization in Buchenwald in the English translation. And the translation was done, of course, this is what we have, and that the one I read for this reflection. It was translated by Joseph Fabry in California in 1977. By then, the institute was called the Institute of Logotherapy, and now it is the Viktor Frankl Institute of Logotherapy. It is not published commercially. It's only available through the Viktor Frankl Institute, is my knowledge. And I sort of was thinking, and of course, correct me if I'm wrong, I think the reason for the change from synchronization in Buchenwald to synchronization in Buchenwald is to make it more realistic, is my thought. So, and then with all that, sorry that I took you into my reflections on the title itself, but there's also more on the synchronization piece I will talk later. I wanted to give a few words of introduction for this reflection. The play is both realistic and deeply metaphorical. It does intertwine suffering, spirituality, and transcendence. I do find that, and of course, I read the play a few times, like 4 or 5 times initially, and then a few more times to actually write the reflection, and one more before this presentation. So every time that I read it, there is something more. And this we were talking before with Dr. Franz as we started this session. I do find that essentially, first of all, for myself, I read it the first time, I couldn't tell, like, where are we? Why are these philosophers talking? And then why are we in a concentration camp? Of course, I knew that Dr. Frankl had that lived experience, but I wasn't sure the reason. And then who are these characters? And then how significant are they? Who is the main character? I wasn't, so the first of all, this orientation is a little bit disorienting when starting to read it. And at one time I thought, why did Dr. Frankl not write a sort of a preamble with telling us what exactly was the scenario, what was the reason why that he sort of, we essentially parachute into the play, and then we need to orient ourselves, and then we need to read it again. So I think after reflecting much more, I think it was deliberate. It makes us think, and it makes us actually go even deeper because we want to understand. And of course, initially the play is quite entertaining. It does use humor and the conversation between characters. Of course, they are facing a difficult time in life, but it's the conversation between the philosophers is playful. They do so they do argue about things, and it's quite amusing. And then there are sad, terrible things that are happening in the camp, and the characters actually make humorous comments about it, and it makes it quite light. It lightens the spirit of what they're facing, and so it's very entertaining, very engaging. And then we can just read it one time and then have that entertainment, that amusement of what happened, but only when we go back and read it and reflect, then we sort of have more. But at the same time, the play itself makes us go back. Like, it's not possible to read it once, I think. And so the curtains right now are deliberate as well, because Dr. Frankl starts the play with curtains. And then, of course, within the play itself, because it's about a play, then the characters, as well as they essentially synchronize or go into the realistic play that is happening on Earth, they open the curtains of space and time and actually say that. So these are my illustrations. I hope that they are making justice to the philosophers. So we then, in the first part of the plot, we see a conversation between Socrates, Spinoza, and Kant. And as I mentioned, I love philosophy. I know a little bit of Kant and Spinoza. I have heard the names, but I do not know very much about them. I know much more about Socrates, and I love Socrates and his philosophy. I'm very much into following his philosophy of life. But I was intrigued about why did Dr. Frankl choose these three philosophers in particular. And so and this, of course, we can debate later, but this is a little bit of my humble explanation. Maybe Kant is highlighting the human rational perspective, and he talks from that angle. Socrates, of course, is the inquirer, and we know about the Socratic inquiry, that he's the one who essentially sparks the conversations and looks into it. So, and Spinoza is the voice of destiny of the universe and the big scheme kind of perspective. This is what I think. And of course they all say, and this is actually one small little piece of what they actually comment on their conversation, that they are all present in eternity. And of course, Spinoza, this is something that Socrates says, and Spinoza says that this is a perplexing paradox, which is actually true. So I think now that as I was preparing this, I think, well, now I'm very interested in knowing a little bit more about Kant and Spinoza in depth. But of course, I didn't have time to actually go so far into their philosophies at this time. So then I looked into, and of course, Dr. Fabry actually writes a little bit of an introduction saying a little bit of this as well, highlighting the fact that Immanuel Kant lived in 1724 to 1804 in the, of course, 17th, 18th century. And Socrates lived in 470 or 399 in Athens. This is before Christ. And Baruch Spinoza lived from 1632 to 1677 in Amsterdam. So we can, and I think there's a significance here because he also presents a very important concept later in the plot, actually discussed by the philosophers. Is about the righteous people, and we'll talk about that in a few minutes. So the importance of that, the fact that they are different generations and they are in eternity and they're talking to each other, is really significant and deliberate. So they as we enter this play, they are essentially initially talking about what time is it, and I did not essentially bring in for this session the exact script because I feel that is very contextual, and I don't want to. I want to make sure that I give justice to what they say. So I'm just essentially paraphrasing here. I hope that is enough, but it would be long to actually go through the full plot with exact words, and so I'll just sort of tell you about what I understood of the dialogue. So they deliberate about a human existence, that people do not get it, that we do not know the meaning of life, and then they also reflect on the fact that perhaps meaning is discovered when confronted by a challenge, as they actually did when they lived. Then, of course, this brings them to the fact that they also believe that no one nowadays believes in anything or anyone, not even in themselves. Or in any idea. So then they talk about like how they could go down on Earth and sort of talk to and teach people, and they also then argue if a philosopher was to come, they would sort of people would think that they were crazy. If a prophet would come in this time and age, then they would think that the prophet has hallucinations and is psychotic. Those are my words, the psychotic piece, but they thought about hallucinations. So then Socrates comes with an idea. He says that he has debated this with his people, his Greek ancient philosophers, and he says perhaps art may be a way to impart truth, and then perhaps creating a play that is based on reality, something that is actually happening, may be a way to actually impart a truth and for people to learn. So then then if this is when they say that the curtain of space and time opens, and then we are transported to Buchenwald. And this is my little cartoon about the picture that I showed you before of Buchenwald. And then we actually, further then, we are essentially witnessing a conversation between Franz and Carl. And then later on, I learned that Franz was the main character after I read when we read it the first time, it's hard to know who the main character is, but then only later on we can see that it's Franz. So Franz represents idealism and conscience. He's talking with his brother Carl. So these are two brothers. This is Franz here on the left. So so they're talking about the fact that they are here in the concentration camp. Carl essentially says to Franz that why did he not go to America when he could? He had the opportunity to immigrate, and he could be the one person in the family that could survive. And then we learned that they are a family of four. Franz decides to stay. Then their sister tries to protect Franz from just protect him from the Germans, and she essentially then is captured. And then as she's captured, the father died from grief, and then of course then the whole family is captured. They do not know where their mother is, but they end up in the same camp. Okay. So at this time, as they are talking, then we see that their mother appears, and then she joins the philosophers and witness this conversation, and they're very sad. So Franz's mother does not recognize the philosophers, which is something that also I think ties to the righteous people, that the concept that we'll talk in a few slides in a few minutes. So she doesn't recognize them. They say that names are not important. They do not introduce themselves to her. The communication is happening by thoughts, and that's why they feel that this is universal. Then she shows them her handbag, and shows them the letters and packages, and then of course these philosophers are confused. Why is this happening? And then they sort of think, oh, this is actually the Carl and Franz's thoughts and prayers are received in the form of these gifts, and just sort of pointing out to the fact that all thoughts and actions on earth have a repercussion. They are essentially not in vain. They do get a connection beyond that is something more metaphysical in a way. So they continue, Franz and Carl continue to talk. Their mother worries about the fact that if they are alone, they're in essentially hungry, and they're not. She worries about them physically. Then she starts listening to the conversation of the philosophers that are talking about this play that is a realistic play, and she's inquiring, who is watching this play, and there's an allusion to their omnipresent presence. So the answer is that can you see the audience? And then she says, no, the lights are blinding me. And then Kant says to her, if I tell you that there's an audience there, would you believe me? And then she says, then I have to believe you. So then this philosopher says, we have to believe, for we cannot know. And then they also believe. And of course, there's this illusion that we don't have the full picture, that there is something more, that and then there's also divine intervention as well. And there is also an allusion to the fact that because we do not know, we have to listen to our conscience. And something else that is presented later on is that because we do not know the full picture, it's sort of we're challenged much more. We had to make choices and take responsibility for our choices. If we had a full picture, then it would be easy to know what the right and the wrong answers are, or the wrong and right choices would be. Um, so I find, and this is the slide in which I sort of wanted to remark a few things here. Franz's mother symbolizes enduring love and connection. There's an unseen spiritual realm that accompanies earthly life. The mother is there, and then as Franz and Carl talk, she's actually responding to them, but they cannot hear her. Uh, we see that beautiful image of the mother opening her handbag and sort of showing these packages and letters. So thoughts and prayers and relationships do transcend death, which I think is a beautiful concept. And then, of course, the play overall is pointing us towards transcendence. Of course, and then this moment of the plot, then the mother has made this wish, and her wish becomes a petition. And then fate intervenes, and then as Guard appears on stage in where Carl and Franz are, but essentially it is a black angel that has went down to Earth and sort of came into the SS Guard, influence him, and he tortures Carl, and then we learned that Carl essentially is there because he switched places with a Czech prisoner. He was supposed to that they both Carl and Franz were in Auschwitz, and they were to go to Franz was to go to Buchenwald, and Franz was to stay. But there was a Czech prisoner that was accompanying Franz that wanted to stay because he knew the camp elder, and the camp elder provided some soup for him, and so he wanted to stay for the soup. So he traded with Carl, so places. So Carl could accompany Franz. The Czech prisoner could stay in Auschwitz with his camp elder friend that provided the soup. And of course, this is all in complicity with the camp elder. So Carl felt, we understand that Carl felt that if he would disclose this to the guard, then not only he would be in like a sentence to death, but also Franz and the camp elder and the Czech prisoner. So it appears that the conversation that he had with Franz earlier in regards to the fact that Franz stayed with the family as a call from his conscience to actually be responsible for his family is something that stayed with him. And then he essentially, as he learned from that conversation, it seems to me, and he does not talk. So he's tortured deeply, and as I mentioned, he actually refuses to confess. He essentially, in this way, by not talking, he is acting on his responsibility and his freedom of will. Of course, this is Franz crying because Carl dies. So Franz deeply mourns. He sort of goes into a very deep sadness. And of course, I wanted to make a little bit of a comment here. So when Carl dies, then Kant expresses to the other philosophers that he's going to take that as an example. And then they talk about Earth as a concentration camp. Because Kant says that when the people have a suicide, he is in charge of the teaching about meaning of life to the people that have committed suicide. And this is in heaven and eternity that he's doing this. And then, of course, he's looking into examples, so educational material to teach them. And they talk about this CCSPE, the concentration camps on planet Earth. And they say that essentially that the existence on Earth is a testing ground. Kant, by sort of explaining to the people that take their lives that there is actually a reason for suffering and could be a meaning for it, and using Carl's example would be a good way to teach those souls that are essentially come to eternity in this situation. But then they ask about why. So what happens to these souls afterwards? And then they say, well, they come back to Earth, and they are reluctantly coming back to Earth again, because it's a testing ground of a soul. And then, of course, this also tells us about how life does involve challenges that could be leading to suffering and moral struggle, but it may also transcend beyond into spiritual growth. And then this is the part I wanted to talk about when I mentioned it, righteous 36 people. So the philosophers continue talking about how, like, this is Socrates saying that he heard from another soul, a Jewish soul, that there are at all times in a generation, there's usually 36 just individuals. I'm not Jewish, I'm Catholic, but I love this concept because I think it has a deep spiritual overlay. They also said that if one of them is sort of found, that person disappears and another one is born. And it's just gonna, I cannot see very well here my own slide, but I just mentioned here the Jewish translation of it, and I cannot pronounce it. Is Lamed Ba Tzaddikim, so I hope that I'm pronouncing it right. So
Lamed Vav Tzadikim.
again,
Lamed Vav Tzadikim.
beautiful. Yes, exactly. So this 36 righteous one. I was reading even more about this, and I think it sort of overlaps a little bit with the tradition in the Catholic faith in regards to the saints and the communions of saints, but this actually goes deeper, and I think it's more spiritual. I just love this concept. The philosophers, I do think, and that's why I highlighted that all the philosophers are from different generations, and they actually meet in eternity, and they recognize each other. We see that the mother comes in and she doesn't recognize them. So they are. I believe that Dr. Frankl was pointing out that these are wise people, and the 30 righteous part of the 30 righteous ones, and likely there's actually a purpose for them to actually recognize Franz as well, and he may be one of those righteous figures. So we go back to the plot. So Franz, so Carl essentially passes the test, so he is actually able to go to eternity, to heaven, and reunites with his mom. And we see that he's no longer bald, and in my imagination. So there is a suggestion that when we pass the test, we actually go into eternity in this way, and of course and if we do not, we will have to come back to the concentration camp. So then Franz, then we continue back into what's happening with Franz. Franz then essentially, Ernest has been there the whole time. He has been one of the characters that has been very negative about what he says. He's very despondent, and essentially he's essentially in a way in a moment of despair in his life, and not able to essentially go beyond it. Like it seems to me he's experiencing some existential vacuum here, not able to essentially get through this experience, and very negative. So Franz has compassion on him, and he also he misses his family so much. He misses Carl, and he's very sad. And he, in his despair, he essentially tries to continue to essentially go inwards into his his thoughts, and he appears to meditate. Most of the comments that appear on the play is him talking to himself, made it sort of half to himself, like his voice is essentially muttered. He's thinking and meditating. So he tries to negotiate with fate that if he prays for him to die instead of Ernest. So Ernest should live and then he would die. And he strongly goes into the space of prayer with that wish. And I do believe that Ernest appears to be experiencing the existential vacuum. We can debate about this if I'm not correct. So Franz continues to mourn, and the more sort of everything that is happening around him, so not only the experience of the camp, but also losing his brother, who is his sounding board. He reflects deeply with the brother, as we have seen before, and now he's not there anymore. So this is very difficult for him. He wishes not to be there anymore. But Ernest dies, and then he feels that he's not actually he calls himself that he's dust, that he's not valuable enough to actually go with his brother, and that his petition of sort of trading places with Ernest is not acknowledged. So he feels that his prayer is not answered, and so that even he goes even more in depth into feeling more like in deep sadness, extreme sadness. So essentially, that I do think that is intentional as well, that the description of how he goes into this sadness, because then he, as he is in this state, he essentially goes deeper and deeper into this spiritual dimension. It's his noetic dimension. Of course, and as this is happening, then we see in heaven, in eternity, the angel confesses to the philosophers and the mother, and of course Carl is there as well, that his intention of going down to earth was to essentially go for Franz, but then on his way, the mission was changed to actually torture Carl and not Franz. So that tells us about some possibility of divine intervention. So Dr. Frankl is likely alluding to that. And then the philosophers talk about, well, what happened to your physical frame, the guard, and then of course they debate about the fact that the guard that essentially was influenced by this angel will actually have to live the consequences of what he had done, and there is atonement that will occur later on in life, that he would not escape the repercussions of essentially having sort of be responsible for his actions. So then Franz, as he's sort of dealing with this and meditating a bit more onto what is happening, he actually has a new, of course, Paul was there as well before, but Paul it becomes much more of a sounding board this time. So another person who he can reflect with. So he sort of talks with Paul about. Of course, I should say Paul, it appears that has a little bit of higher of authority in the camp, and he's also a prisoner. So Franz mentions to Paul about how he feels that he shouldn't be the one surviving, that he should have been the one that died and not Carl, and then he doesn't deserve to be living, like, in a way, that those are not his words, but I'm just paraphrasing, that he that he has done many things that he shouldn't have done. For example, he regrets about trading bread for a coat, and the other prisoner ended in the gas chamber. But he felt that maybe his fate would have been different, and he would have used the coat, and he took advantage of him. So he deeply regrets having done that exchange. He felt that he took advantage of the other prisoner. And then Paul sort of essentially says, well, apparently he knew the other prisoner as well, and told him that the other prisoner was going to go to the gas chamber either way. So it sort of it is not he shouldn't be feeling that way, but still Franz feels that the moral issue with the fact that he, in a way, took advantage of the other prisoner, he feels deeply regret. So as this is happening, the philosophers are also commenting on this and saying how important it is that, or how significant it is that Franz is having such regret. And of course, even though he had done something that was not morally exactly 100% correct, he has regret on it, and therefore he learned. So I do think I added here that I do think that at this moment of the play, we are essentially being exposed of in depth Franz's experience of suffering, guilt, and of course the closeness of death for them. So essentially the tragic triad in a deep way. But then this opens up to that noetic realm for him, as we can see later. So as I mentioned, by regretting on this, Franz is taking responsibility for his actions and learning from it. And then meaning then emerges, so he reflects even more, and then of course this becomes a transformation in his thinking after he sort of goes into that noetic dimension. He and then realizes that there have been people that even in the camp have had compassion, and he would like to have a mercy on them, and he creates a mercy list of those that were essentially in their places of authority, had the compassion and helped, and so he wanted to essentially when he was out of the camp, and not to forget about it. This Paul, of course, is not understanding of that, but here's what Franz is actually saying here, and this is, of course, Paul and Franz talking, and of course we had the philosophers and Franz's loved ones also witnessing the conversation. So Franz also mentions that in his thinking that mercy is the only thing that can break the cycle of injustice. He shares this with Paul. And of course, in a way, compassion becomes an act of resistance. And then after all this, when he's talking with Paul, then he comes to the realization that he's sentenced to live. And then, of course, this brings him even more into that deeper noetic dimension. And then in what he's dreaming, he feels that connection more like with the spiritual realm, with the philosophers, with his family. I have the philosophers here. I didn't have space for the family, but they're also there, connecting deeply with Franz in his spiritual dimension. And he feels that they are accompanying him all along. Then he thinks about the play. And then at this point in time, the philosophers feel, okay, then we are not needed anymore. We're superfluous, and they leave the stage. Franz then feels compelled to fulfill his mission, that he's inspired to create this play. And essentially, by doing that, he's transcending suffering. He now has a face of optimism. And then I find this is very, very, very important here. the play finishes when Franz is meditating about this, and then he says himself that he believes. But that ties up with the conversation that initially the philosophers had, in which they said nobody believes, so he believes, and that closes the play. And then the synchronization in Buchenwald play is created, but then we essentially go into that loop. The curtain closes. So, and this is all the plot. Then I'd like to talk a little bit about my reflections. I'm not sure if anyone wants to mention anything right now. And so I'll go into a few things that I wanted to remark. So there are mystical elements in the play. And of course, the original name of Metaphysical Conference is quite essentially fitting. I'm having problems here with my slide. Okay, so the mystical elements of having the philosophers and Franz connection. The play itself, the play is about a play, and then we go in a circle. There's this time and space loop. The philosophers are there from different times, and they are synchronizing there at the same time. And so I think that is a very, as we are reading this work, we are essentially there, and it is hard to leave that space. And of course, it's a little bit disorienting, the time and space, but also very essentially captivating in a way. There are layers of spiritual teaching, and we'll talk about that in a minute, in the next slide. The title is quite revealing, so there's an intentionality to the title, the synchronization, and we'll talk about it in a minute. So there's a synchronization of minds, the minds of the philosophers, and the fact that their teachings are instilling inspiration in Franz, and of course in us as we read it. There is synchronization, catalyzation of wisdom among people and actions, and is a realistic play because we are witnessing something that really happened. And of course, all that sort of essentially affects us too. So we are synchronized with the characters and the play. The play stays with us after we read it, and it sort of has this. It captures us and doesn't let our mind, at least to me, go. It's sort of we continue synchronizing with the play and their message. So Pearls, a few things. No, this is not like this is a few of them, and I know there's more because I'm sure I'm reading it more. There may be more wisdom into it, but in summary, life is a mystery. We only get glimpses of our play and our life. Each of us is born in a time that is meant to be, and we have a mission in life. We see that each character plays a little role, and each of them learn from each other, and it's beautiful to see that. And so essentially, yeah, we influence each other in our life. Our existence is interconnected across time and space. We can see that the connection with the spiritual realm is still there. Like it doesn't end with this life; it goes beyond. Our consciousness is the prompter, so it's all uncertain from what we can see right now. We cannot see the full picture, but that makes us take choices and essentially follow our conscience into the right choice, the right time. And we are accountable. So if we choose if path then is not the correct, then we have to be responsible for that and learn from it. Living for someone or something brings meaning to our life. We see how Franz, once he's again essentially inspired again to write, he has new meaning to his life, and he feels that his sentence to life has a deep meaning. And then, of course, he's connected with his loved one and the philosophers. I wanted to remark on the fact that throughout the play, there is so much humor and play of words that I find it quite amusing. The characters, their personalities are so wonderful to see them debate, especially the philosophers. And that also brings the difficult situation in the characters themselves as they experience the camp to be less intense. The other thing is they talk about justice and redemption. This is beyond our grasp, but things work out at the end in a way, and that mercy breaks the cycle of injustice. The philosophers talk about the realism of the ideal, and in the noetic dimension. So not to be disconnected for the fact that we can live our fullest if we have an ideal. I do think that the play brings creative, experiential, and attitudinal values and a teaching around them. Now, I wanted to remark a few things, and this is as I prepare for this session, and I know that I'm perhaps getting beyond time. I apologize. If we don't have time, I have a few more things to say. Structural elements. There's blurred boundaries on time and space. The events converge. There's a liminal space that is explored, and we'll talk about this in a minute, and the time and space loop. There's no closure, so this is very effective. It sort of keeps us hooked. The liminal space, I think, and then of course I have not completely developed this piece, and it would have taken longer than to actually explain this to here in this presentation. But this is something that I'd like to go in there in more depth if I have possibility in the future. But as far as I can tell right now, there is a contrast in between we see the philosophers' commentary, and they are the highest intellectual achievement of Europe, and then confronted with the collapse of European civilization, what's happening in the camp. We see a liminal space because we are essentially facing life and death situations. There's history and eternity at the same time. And then there's the space in between despair and hope, as well as philosophy and faith. This brings us to an exploration of mystery and transcendence. So that liminal space sort of points even more strongly into that transcendence and that noetic dimension. And of course, and this is something else that I came about as I was preparing this presentation, like because I couldn't get out of this sort of feeling that is lingering after reading this plot, this work. Why does it have this kind of effect? So in a way, we are inhabiting the same space as we read this. We see suffering and transcendence. We are actually in deep conversation with the philosophers and Franz, and in a way with Dr. Frankl and us. Essentially living the play in our mind creates this transtemporal, transspatial connection, and evokes again this deep feeling of liminality that is very disorienting in a way, affects our perception of time, suffering, and meaning, also transcendence. It feels incomplete. And then because of that, it has this sort of very lingering effect. I was looking into this even more because, and then there's a story behind it, but I came across this word, and again, I'm terrible pronouncing German words, but came about this word of yearning, and this is through C.S. Lewis's work, which this is something else that opened up to me because I'd like to learn more about it, because I think that describes this sort of feeling of yearning. There is this incompleteness, disorientation, and wanting to know more, and something that is essentially glimpses of something unattainable, that we know that it exists, but it cannot grasp. So the word is, I believe, say sanct, something like that. And of course, we get these glimpses of deeper truth, like a tapestry. I think the image that comes to my mind is that of as I mentioned, I'm Catholic. So Padre Pio talked about a little boy going to his mother and looking at embroidery work, but he was actually coming from essentially underneath the work, and couldn't see the full what his mom was doing, and he can only see the knots and the disarranged colors that were at the bottom of the embroidery. So we only get the glimpses of those colors, but we don't see the other side, the full picture. Then there is there's this sensation in us as we read it of unresolved metaphysical synchronization. So we are left in that space. There's no closure. And the place continues inwardly in our minds after the last page. So that, sorry for the long reflection there, but my personal reflection on this work is that it did inspire the interconnection of existence. I do believe, as well as Dr. Frankl, that there is interconnectedness in between us in this life and a spiritual dimension, and also the connection with our loved ones. So I did feel accompanied, and I felt that this, if it is a play, I know it's essentially a creation of the imagination, but it imparts truth and is very deeply meaningful to me. So it resonated a lot with my way of thinking, and it made also more of effect on how I feel that love and vocation and meaning may transcend death as well. And of course, with all of that, it makes me reflect in my own work and my own mission in life. I feel that I'm in palliative care for a reason. I feel that logotherapy came to my life for a reason. And of course, in my humble way, in a way, I would like to be able to better bring some of the teachings to essentially to the area where I work, so others could also bring essentially this meaning or essentially inspiration to our patients and all the healthcare providers that work in palliative medicine and beyond. So I sort of inspired me in that way. Conclusion. Synchronization in Buchenwald evokes an enduring existential effect and ends with an invitation. It doesn't close. It brings us back to a dialogue, into a search for meaning. And that was it. These are a few of my bibliography. And I'd like to open for any comments or questions. And sorry that I lose, now that I close my presentation, I'm not sure where I can see everyone.
First of all, I just want to say, Eglee, thank you so much for this presentation. And I have lots of questions, and I'm sure we will discuss it in our tutorials in the future, in the near future, and really looking forward to it. But right now, I want to give everybody else an opportunity to ask questions or make comments and to have a discussion.
Thank you. Dr. Kimmer?
Thank you. First of all, I want to really, really applaud you, Eglee, and thank you. Am I pronouncing it correctly?
Oh, yeah, beautifully. Thank you.
To really applaud you and thank you so much for this beautiful lecture and also for your courage to deal with this very difficult piece of Frankl. It's not dealt enough, actually. So really, congratulations. Now, I want to say several things about the philosophers, but first I will say that I have seen the play played in Israel in Hebrew, and it is also filmed in Israel, and you can get it, I believe, but you cannot understand because it's in Hebrew.
Oh,
so
yes, I wouldn't.
Just for your knowledge.
Yes.
As to the play itself, I don't remember it really by heart, but I remember that it says in the beginning, place, everywhere, time, now. That means that it is really for all of us, and for all of us to, as you just said in the end, to reflect upon it while you are listening to it being read or seeing or reading it, and afterwards, because you said rightly so, there's no closure.
No.
So I believe really that it is the kind of dialogue between heaven and earth, And this is also synchronized, and it's really beautiful. I personally believe that it's the most spiritual piece of Frankl, even more than the one, the unconscious God, which I consider the most spiritual. But when I saw the play, I said to myself, here he had courage to really say everything that he believed in. And I will explain in a minute what I mean. But I want to say something about the choice of the philosophers. I think each of them represents a part or a trait in Frankl's personality and thought himself. So like Spinoza, he was, I think, representing rationality and going over, overcoming just passions and instincts. Like he claimed that we can make a change in our thought to achieve freedom. So the aspect of freedom is important here in Spinoza for Frankl, just like he wanted to, he said we can change our attitude in whatever circumstances. And Kant is there for the moral aspect, like his imperative, categoric imperative that he talked about in morality, that it's unconditional for humanity. I cannot go too much in it because I want to let other people speak, but just the same for Frankl, the meaning of life is unconditional, and it doesn't depend neither on death nor on suffering. And Socrates is there, of course, just like Frankl, to ask the questions. And why? To reveal the truth and to let the truth come out with no authority. That is the whole thing, that all these three philosophers did not believe in outward authority, but in the inner authority of autonomy and inner wisdom. So Socrates is there to ask the questions like Viktor Frankl himself. And when you, you know, with the saying, know thyself, the famous saying, know thyself, you come to your truth, to your inner truth, and that is the base for a moral life as well. So I love what you said about a liminal space. That is, there is still a lot to be researched there. Perhaps we can once have a conversation between us. It's really a beautiful concept that you brought in. And maybe I would just say one last thing in order to let other people have time, that when I heard what the guard had to say, if you remember the guard that you described there, he says something like, well, you know, I had the most difficult part when I went down there to Earth, to the concentration camp. And then you realize that we really do not see the whole picture, but Frankl is how do you say it? He let us understand that by not seeing the whole picture, actually God has the whole picture. And he talks about a teleological view. That means telos in Greek is purpose. So God knows the whole purpose, the picture in its wholeness. And it's like a drama. It is like a drama planned in heaven. It's like a drama that even the evil people, so to speak, on earth, the most evil people, they also, in their souls, they're just souls, they're good. And that's why that person is saying, well, I had the most difficult part when I went there to earth, because now he's in eternity, so he knows what he had done on earth. But it's a part, it's a task that he was given to, so to speak. And that's why I was so impressed when I saw this play, and I thought to myself, this is where Frankl went the farthest that he could in terms of spirituality and his whole view. And he also witnessed that, gave testimony that it was stronger than him. It came out of him, and that he could hardly follow the words that were coming out of him to write it. So that's
Yes.
very beautiful. So thank you very, very much for bringing all of that.
Oh, thank you so much, Dr. Kimmer. And sorry, I was taking notes as you were talking because you also opened up a few of things that I wasn't that I did not know as much depth. And as you were talking as well, I think that looking at the interpretation of the plays and how you witnessed the movies and the plays played in front of you, there are pieces that actually come to us from even their reflection or the interpretation of. So there are. This is so rich that it keeps sort of pouring different pieces from different angles, so we still do not grasp it all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, as you said, it leaves us with no closure. We keep reflecting upon it. So that's,
Yes.
yeah, it's great, really. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else has any reflections or comments or any corrections on what I said? I'm not sure if I could ask you, there are more experts than me, but I was reflecting on the character of Ernest, and I couldn't, like, I was thinking, is he experienced more in depth so a deeper tragic triad, but he's actually going beyond into this existential vacuum. And that's what I sort of felt that was at the end um, what was happening. He wasn't able to have anything positive to remark on, or he was deeply sort of discouraged, or was he facing mostly the depression of the essentially the neurotic triad. So I just wasn't sure what to place more in depth what he was experiencing.
Are you asking everybody or?
Yeah, everyone. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or yourself, if you could,
Hmm.
Dr. Kimmer.
I can say for myself that I am not really sure. I did not pay so much attention to his character because when I understood who Viktor Frankl is in terms of the characters and who his brother is and who the mother is, I put the accent on them. But I guess what you're suggesting here about existential vacuum and kind of disconnection from his noetic dimension is probably true.
Okay.
And
Okay.
depression, he was
Yes.
lost.
Yes.
Cindy, there's a message from Cindy, Dr. Wemberley, who says that well done, and maybe a future diplomate project.
Thank you.
I think
Thank
so.
you.
I
Thank you.
I am so amazed with this play, and whenever I hear discussion about it and people's perspective who've done a lot of work on this play, it just grabs me once again. And I'm so proud of Dr. Gimon for this presentation. And any comment that you think might assist her in the future with maybe a diplomate project might be fantastic. Because it's a very significant thing that Frankl did. It truly, there is no closure because we each one of us, I believe, we have to find our own closure. And we are synchronized with history and eternity together. It's it's that space that we live in, and we don't realize it except at certain points. Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't realize it. But I think it's a beautiful openness for all of us, open space for all of us.
Yes. Yes,
Um,
indeed.
I'm not sure whose hand went up first, whether it was Andres or Tom. Um,
It was Tom.
Okay, go
Almost
ahead.
quicker.
Thank you, Andres. Well, my comment will be brief. Thank you for your presentation. This play was very inspirational to me. I read it several times. Unfortunately, it's been a little while since I've read it. So a very quick comment that may help your expansion on this. In this play, he mentions the Lamed Vavniks. It's VAV, not VAD, by the way. So
Okay.
and
Thank you.
Lamed is, of course, a letter in the Hebrew alphabet. It also represents the number 30. And Vav represents the number 6, also a letter.
Okay.
And the Lamed Vavniks, I guess that's a Russianization of the term, or Yiddish. And basically, that the 36 righteous tzedakим. I couple that with the fact that Frankl mentions in other places his descendants on his mother's side from the Maharal of Prague, the famous Rabbi Love or Luba, and who was a famous, well-known Kabbalist. And this is all grist for the mill, but unfortunately, there's so much pop psychology that gets connected to Kabbalism. I would be very cautious in proceeding down the area. But I think that my question that I don't know if any of us can answer it is, did he have this intuitively or did he just allude to it sort of cryptically? Is he bringing this Jewish mysticism in sort of under the radar, or is it just he sort of mentions it and he doesn't necessarily have that deeper knowledge that maybe a rabbi or someone who's into the Jewish mysticism more deeply? But because his choice of Spinoza and Spinoza, I always wonder why he didn't choose Maimonides, or why Spinoza instead. But I don't have any answers for you, but I do think these are intriguing. And I just wanted to add that to what you said.
Oh, thank you so much.
Well, I'll yield the remainder of my time to my friend Andreas.
Okay, thank you very much, Tom. And, well, it's also quite short. And yeah, thank you very much, first of all. And it was a wonderful presentation. And yeah, again, made it, how to say, present, display again in my mind. And I just remembered when Peter said, yeah, it was played in Israel and then in Hebrew. It already also was played 2012 in Vienna in the conference.
Yeah.
But there it was in German, of course. And the movie, which you can find from this, so on YouTube, is also in German, but I'm not sure if there is a possibility of subtitle there.
Okay.
But for expanding a little bit more into this, I also did a thorough research for some secondary literature or so, some comments about this play. But yeah, I couldn't find any except one, and that was kind of diplomat work, and I'm not sure. Yeah, I need to search it again. Possibly it was under the Institute of Alfred Langley, but nevertheless, they do a lot of good theoretical work there. But this is also in German as well. But I could provide this because I have.
That would be great.
Yeah, I would need to search it in my documents. So somewhere I have stored, fortunately, somewhere in the logotherapy file.
Thank you.
It's in German, and well, as I know, my friend Tom knows perfectly German, not perfectly, but is always translating books from different languages. Well, maybe you are willing, but of course,
That's
it's
because I have a really great program that will do the whole thing, and then I can clean it up.
Okay, so I don't know.
Ein bisschen Deutsch.
Ich weiß. And, I don't know whom I should send it, so in order that it gets distributed or not, I could send it to you. And
yes, that would be wonderful. Thank you, Andreas. I just put my email, if that's okay, on the chat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great, and then I send it to you, and then you can see. Yeah, ChatGPT also could
yes, the
translate
ChatGPT would be good. Yes, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, welcome. Okay, that it was.
Okay, thank you. appreciate, and of course that gives me a little bit more things to work on, and that anything that I can actually expand, that would be wonderful. I'm very motivated, and sort of this, I think, has given me more inspiration to actually go deeper. This is like I actually, like, personally, I feel that like I'm always been a philosophical person, but this sparked this deep interest in Dr. Frankl's work, but beyond. So I thank you all for for your input and your thoughtful and complementary knowledge that that actually brings my presentation into an even more expansion and more insightfulness. Thank you so much.
And yeah, I think just one addition. So if you want to expand it and want to dive deeper also in these philosophers and maybe why he has chosen them, well, for Kant and Socrates, I think it's rather more clear, and Dieter has already explained
Yes.
it quite full.
Yes.
But I think it's necessary to dig deeper into Spinoza. Spinoza is a
Spinoza.
very interesting, deep, and well, I don't know if difficult, but somehow difficult, like every philosopher, also thinker. But this might, elicit a little bit more why he has chosen Spinoza, and possibly not. Well, I can't pronounce it. Maimonides. Well, Tom.
My bunny.
Yes. What Tom has mentioned. The other one. Yeah, and that's I think interesting to dive deeper into Spinozan ethics and philosophy, and which clears maybe also some intentions of or some positions of Frankl.
Thank you.
Just last comment.
Yes, I foresee that. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
I get it.
May I just make a comment? I'm sorry. Am I interrupting someone?
No, sorry. I just added what I had said before, that I think it's because of Spinoza's emphasis on freedom, that we can change something in our consciousness in order to reach inner freedom. And that is very much like Frankl's position about changing our attitude.
And
you cannot change to the
additionally, I think also the concept of God, which was very, like a substance and self-fulfilling. And so I think this is also, an argument for Frankl to use him. But that's my idea a little bit.
Although for Spinoza, it's more, it equals nature.
Exactly.
And I think for Frankl, it goes beyond, and he talks about, he also agrees with Kant about faith in God that doesn't need empirical proof. So I think it has to do also with God in Spinoza. I mean, more the rationality of Spinoza, because Frankl wanted at that time to be accepted in both the psychiatric world as well as the scientific world. And so I think that also has to do something with the choice of philosophers.
And he also wanted to be acknowledged in the philosophy world, because in 48, then she got his PhD in philosophy. So I think he was also occupied with these thinkers. And well, I still believe also the concept of this God as nature, so they don't need to go behind, because this soothes a little bit to be not that theological, but being more also accepted for realists. And I think this helps his points to strengthen. Or, well, it wasn't an argumentative work, it was a play, but I think it symbolizes this.
Yeah.
But we can. It's a deeper discussion, of course.
Yes.
But Doreen, you are so.
No, I just want to thank everybody. This is wonderful, and thank you, Eglee. We're running out of time, I believe. Memdu is not here to do the IT work, and he's left to me to do this. And so I'm trying to figure out how to actually close it from an IT perspective. But I hope we have more of these discussions, because this play, it links up all our coursework, and not just the logotherapy coursework, attitude and meaning. It brings so much together for us when we are studying logotherapy, when we are living logotherapy, when we are sharing logotherapy. So I hope we have more discussions about this. And I'm going to share with you in the future what Dr. Gimon has just presented, and looking forward to working with you in the future, and with all present, and the members of our institute as well. So thank you very much for all of your attendance, for your comments, and thank you, Dr. Gimon, for a lovely presentation. I believe we should close now, and I will try to do this as efficiently as men do. But thank you so much, and I hope to talk to you all very soon. Thank you so much, Dr. Gimon.
I am smiling, Doreen. I'm smiling because with Memdu, we always go into a kind of after party, whoever wants to still discuss. So that's why it's actually up to you. It's not so rigid.
Well, I love that idea, because I'm sure we can talk on and on forever,
Yeah.
which is something I love, the whole narrative in our logotherapy family, and the freedom to speak. Our world is going through a transition. I just want to mention something just came to my mind. I've been watching on the History Channel. It's a 20-part documentary led by Tom Hanks on World War II. And I'm fascinated by it because a lot of my research has taken me into the wars and to the whole question of humanity. And I was watching the last couple that are on now, and I was so emotional. I'm thinking, have we forgotten? Have we forgotten about the atrocities that took place? Because what's happening in our world, we are out of sync. We are out of sync with our existence, with our meaning and our purpose. And this play just is front and center for me, because it is such a wonderful space for us to enter into, and to start thinking about how we can synchronize with our humanity as decent people. Frankl says there are two races of people, decent and indecent. We must enter this kind of space to talk about what decency is all about, because what we see all around, this is a World War III, I think. And I'm afraid to say it that way, but it's something that I think about. And I really appreciate the space here, because it's like we are entering into a thought about synchronization. What is our attitude? What is our meaning? What is our purpose as human beings, as decent human beings? So thank you so much to everybody. And I'm looking forward to more work with all of you and our Logo family, and with you, Dr. Gimon. Thank you so much.
Thanks
and
so much.
until next time, thank you, everybody. Lots of love. And
thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you as well. And yeah, greetings and good night
Thanks so
from
much.
Germany.
Thank you.
To be
Bye.
continued.
Bye.